Hello, I'm Jeremy, and today I'm going to take a look at a stacking dexterity game by the name of Beasts of Balance. And this is a pretty simple stacking game. It plays in about 15 minutes. The box says from 1 to 5 players, ages 7 and up. I think that age is about right. Generally, though, this is going to be an activity more than a game where you're just trying to beat your high score. It's a cooperative game. You could play with up to 5 players, but generally I think it works best maybe playing with 1 player to maybe 2, 3 at the most. It is a game that requires an app to use. So there's an app that you could download to your iPhone or iPad or your Android device. And I will show you how that works, and then I will come back and let you know what I think about this game. So Beasts of Balance is really just a stacking dexterity game that has some app integration. And this app, it runs on iOS, and apparently there's an Android version as well. I've had some issues where it's been losing my progress on here, I think, as it's updated, but maybe they've gotten that ironed out. It hasn't happened lately. But the game basically allows you to download that app from your app store for free, and then it'll come with this battery operated, I think it takes 3 AA batteries, base where you're going to stack these figures, and there are 25 of those, and they come in 3 different types. So the object is going to be to basically stack these figures onto the base. So most of the figures here are going to be these animal types, and you can see that these are very high quality. They're plastic, and each one of them has one of these little NFC reader chips on it. So before you stack something on there, what you're going to do, so the game app could track it, and I guess this communicates to that with Bluetooth or some such thing, you will scan it there, and you can see here it tells me that I've got a beast eagle, and then you just stack it on the board. So once you do that, it registers that, I suppose this is a scale here, it registers that you've scanned the animal, and it tells you that the animal is now part of your biosphere here. So the object is you'll notice it has a number of points on it, and it'll earn points for you each round. And you can tap it if you want to see it, and so on. But the object is to get the highest score possible by having as many animals as possible, and as strong as animals as possible within your biosphere. So I added this eagle. Let's say the next thing I want to do is add an octopus. So all I do is pick up the octopus, I scan it, and then I can place it on there. It doesn't matter if you put it on there upside down or right side up. But now the octopus will appear in my land as well. And the octopus, you'll notice, and this is where the game's, I guess, main mechanism comes into place, is the octopus is weaker than the eagle. So whenever you have weaker animals, essentially if there's a dominant animal, the other animals are going to get jealous, and each turn they're going to lose 1 point. And if they ever get down to 0, they'll die out. So trying to keep them alive is where a lot of the game's strategy, such as it is, comes into play. So one way that I could do that is you'll notice that the eagle is in the pink sky and the octopus is in the blue ocean. I could play one of these gemstones to try to keep my animal alive. So let's say I scan that gemstone. That's going to basically, you see, it'll benefit the animals that are in both the air and the water once I add that to my pedestal. So that'll go in there, and you'll get these little stars that go and boost the strength of those animals, essentially keeping them alive. And sometimes what that will do is it will trigger a transformation in your animal. So I suppose it didn't happen here, but it might sometimes. So there are other special tiles. So these correspond essentially to all the different elements. So this one would be earth plus fire. This one would just be double earth, and so on. So there's basically a set of those that correspond to that. There are, in the base game, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 animals, although I know that you could buy additional animals if you so desire. But another thing that you could do is migrate an animal. So let's say, I have my octopus here. I could take this little migrate token, which is that arrow, and scan that and add that in, and it'll make an animal migrate. So you could try to manage so that they keep in the same terrain. So now my octopus, it's mutated and started flying, so now it's in the sky. And now you'll notice it's actually stronger than my eagle, so it's worth more points. Another thing that you could do is use these X's to, I guess, crossbreed your animal. So if I do that, and then add that to the stack, that will essentially crossbreed the two animals I have, making a new animal. And one of the, I guess, the meta games of this game is that you can crossbreed animals to try and collect them all, like a Pokemon style thing. So I've made this Inkwing, which is essentially a combination between my flying octopus and my eagle. So just trying all the different combinations over a course of many games is one of the things that the app will track for you. And then finally, I guess the last real piece that's here is this little S shape. And what that does is it makes you interact with the sun and the moon. It's the distraction piece. So once I add that, you'll see I'll all of a sudden have to add pieces while I'm touching the app. So, but when you do that, you get bonus points. So there's a sort of pressure luck element here. So now you can see I have to hold the sun while I'm placing an animal. So let's say I wanted to place this guy here. I have to hold the sun while I'm placing the warthog. So this is just a nice additional dexterity element. And now my warthog will join my biosphere. So essentially the game is just managing these different animals, trying to keep them all alive as long as possible, so that you can, so now I have to tap the full moons like this, you know, as I'm playing. I have to pay attention to the app. So trying to keep them alive to get the score to be as high as possible. So it's a game that you could play solo, or you could take turns and make it a cooperative multiplayer game. The box says that's going to be about 1 to 5 players. I would say that, you know, 5 players, you know, you probably aren't going to get too many actions over the course of a game, so you might want to consider it more of a lower player count game or a solo game. So the game end condition is essentially if your tower collapses, but there is one complication. So let's just say this piece falls off. I have until the volcano erupts to finish rebuilding my tower, so to get all the pieces I had on there, or that back on if one of them or more of the, one of them falls off. Otherwise, you know, let's just say I go to place this and oops, I stumble and I don't complete it by the time the volcano erupts, then I am going to just get a final score. So right here I got 38 points, and that would be my final score. And then you could just use your app to play again. You could check which animals you've collected in your bestiary, and that is pretty much how you're going to play Beasts of Balance. Alright, so that is Beasts of Balance, and I wanted to start my thoughts on this by addressing two things. The first would be the app integration into the game. It does, like I said, require that you use an app on an iOS version or an Android version. Those are free apps that you get off of the App Store for your device, but you know, they are required. Even though the app only does a few things, it keeps track of your score, it tracks what animals you've collected so far, and it adds like those slightly interactive elements where you're interacting with the sun and the moon, and the timer when you lose a piece from your tower, that like sudden death moment. Even though it only does those few things, it is required to play the game. At the same time, the game does live or die by the fact that you're just stacking these pieces onto the pedestal. So the physical element of the pieces, you know, these little pieces are super well designed. They're high quality, they're plastic, they're rather unique, I think, among board games. And they're essentially like designed so that they're very hard to stack, even the easier ones. So this bear is one of the easier pieces to stack on there, but you know, it has a curved back. So that's, you know, makes it not so obvious which way you want to put it. You know, this piece, it stacks nicely on its bottom, but then you have to try and stack something on top of it. So, you know, most of the pieces have been designed with that sort of, you know, question about how am I going to stack this? I have several ways that are plausible to stack this, which is going to be the best way for the situation in mind, which is terrific. There's no obvious piece that I always put on there first whenever I play this game, and I've seen other people play the game, and they have not, you know, fallen back onto like the same obvious starter strategies. So in that respect, the game really does work well. It's a very well designed dexterity game. It's not very easy to get all of the pieces onto that pedestal. So, you know, I know that some people don't like app integration in the board games. I don't find it to be a problem, but I think that I wanted to address that. The second thing that I wanted to address about this game is the price. In the US, you have to order it, I believe, direct from the distributor or from select retailers. I know that I got my copy from Marbles the Brain Store, and I ordered it when they had a discount, a store-wide discount, so I got it for something like $20 off. But generally the price is something like $100. I think the retail is $100 US, which does make this relatively expensive. So if you could get it on a discount, I would encourage you to do that. I will say, though, in defense of that price, that it's extremely high quality. It's really novel. It has a lot of curb appeal, we'll say. People will come and gravitate to this game. The downside, I guess, is some people are worried about paying $100 for a game that's essentially a filler game. Now, I have a Crokinole board that I paid $200 for. I have, some other dexterity games, big dexterity games that, you only pull out every once in a while that I paid, $60, $80 for. So this is in that ballpark for me, but I understand that for what you're getting, despite the high quality of the pieces here, some people might balk at the price. So I just wanted to mention what the price of the game is. But back now that I've addressed that, I want to just talk about the game itself, which I think does work very well. I will say that the box saying 1 to 5 players, is a little bit of a misnomer. I think generally you're going to be playing this, 1 or 2 players, just by yourself maybe, as you're waiting for a game to finish at your game night. This is a perfect thing to play, just while if somebody shows up late to game night as another game's playing, or people are still trickling in. They could just join in since it's a cooperative game, and take turns putting pieces on, trying to do as well as they can. And this is a sort of game where once it falls, you have no real problem walking away from it. At the same time, it does have a little bit of replay value insofar as you're trying to collect all the different animal mutations, and the app will track that for you. So over a course of many games, you're trying to beat your high score. You're trying to catch them all, Pokemon style, and I think that will appeal to people as well. So it does work in a sense, as a game that you could just play as a filler, and then a game that has a little bit more long-term appeal, which is nice. I don't want to oversell it, but there's also a strategy element to the game, unlike a lot of dexterity games, because you are going to be managing the life force of your various animals, trying to keep them alive as long as possible. So you might have animals that want this piece to live, but there's no way you could stack that particular piece onto your tower as it's been built. So there is this element of strategy in it as well. Again, not to oversell that, it is just something that is present in the game. So overall, I think that it's a really unique game. It works very well as a dexterity game. It compares favorably with a lot of the other popular stacking games. It's probably not my favorite stacking game. I probably would say, something like Junk Art might be a better purchase with more longevity, just because it has so many different game modes, or something like Bondu might be a better long-term purchase. But if you really want something that's novel, something that I think kids would absolutely love, and something that you could just put out on the table for a game night and have people come and go to it as over the course of the night, this would be something that would be ideal. So those are my thoughts on Beasts of Balance, and thank you for watching.